Hello everyone, and welcome to Holistic Healing with Deepshika. How many times during the day do you talk to yourself in a manner where you are berating yourself for being stupid or missing out on the obvious or trusting the wrong people, taking the wrong decision, etc., etc., etc. If you pay attention, you will realize that somehow it is not natural for us to talk kindly with ourselves or cut ourselves a little slack in case we have made some mistake. We all know that life can be tough, whether it's the pressure to meet high expectations, the sting of failure, or the weight of past mistakes. We often find ourselves in a cycle of self-criticism. But imagine a scenario where it does not have to be like this. What if instead of harsh judgment, we approached ourselves with kindness, understanding and care? But how do we do this? The answer is self-compassion. Now what is self-compassion? Well, self-compassion is the practice and ability of holding yourself amidst failure, disappointment and suffering of any kind. And in the face of these life contractions, to still be able to offer oneself love and kindness. In this episode, we'll explore what self-compassion is, why it's so vital for deep healing, and how easy it is to be critical of ourselves. And hopefully, as we end this episode, I would have been able to make it clearer as to why embracing self-compassion is the key to living a more peaceful and authentic life. Let's start with something many of us are all too familiar with, the voice inside our heads that often tells us we are not good enough, the one that says you should have done better, you're not smart enough, or you'll never measure up. Okay, I know that sounds a little extreme, but it may surprise you that how common it is for someone to speak to oneself in this manner. Now, I have a question for you. What is your first response when someone compliments you? For a very long time, I did not know how to respond to a compliment. If I was complimented on my clothes, I would start quoting the price of the dress, usually saying something like, "Oh, it's very cheap, branded nahi hai," kind of thing. And then, one day someone said to me, "Just a thank you is enough." Basically, what I'm trying to say is that our inner critique can be relentless. In fact, without us even realizing, we simply start believing each word that we say. And it is so easy to fall into a pattern of negative self-talk, especially when we encounter setbacks or make mistakes. Also, it is a common belief that criticism can motivate us to improve. But here's the problem. Self-criticism rarely leads to growth. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. And here, I'm reminded of a quote by Christine Arillo. Be kind to yourself. It's hard to be happy when someone is mean to you all the time. When we criticize ourselves, we are not just addressing a single action. We are attacking our self-worth. It's no longer about what we did, it's about who we are. We internalize failure, mistakes and flaws, believing they define us. This mindset can lead to feelings of shame, guilt and inadequacy, making it harder to bounce back from adversity. Self-criticism also creates a feedback loop. The more we criticize ourselves, the more likely we are to become anxious, depressed or disengaged. When we are stuck in this cycle, we start to fear failure more than we embrace the possibility of growth. This makes it even harder to take risks, try new things or be authentic. I mean, just imagine. How can you be confident to be you, be it in your professional life or in personal life, if you are constantly questioning yourself? And a lot of times this aspect turns into seeking external validation. By this, what I mean is that since we do not get the love or acceptance that we need from ourselves, we start seeking it from people or things outside of us, which in turn only creates further problems. Like we may make our work our life, or we may put endless pressure on our relationships with increased expectation of it making us happy. So now that we understand what self-criticism can do to us, let's move on to self-compassion. Self-compassion is the practice of treating yourself with same kindness, care and understanding you would offer a dear friend going through a tough time. It's about recognizing that suffering, failure and imperfection are part of being human, and instead of condemning yourself, you treat yourself with patience and love. Self-compassion is based on 3 core principles. Self-kindness. Instead of beating yourself up when you make a mistake or fall short, you treat yourself with gently. You acknowledge your pain and respond to it with care rather than criticism. Common humanity. You recognize that you are not alone in your struggles. Everyone experiences pain, failure, and difficulty. Understanding that your experience is part of the shared human condition helps you feel less isolated. Mindfulness. Being mindful means you acknowledge your thoughts and feelings without judgment. When you're struggling, mindfulness allows you to sit with your emotions without becoming overwhelmed or consumed by them. You don't suppress or ignore your feelings, but you also don't let them define you. Now, please know that self-compassion is more than just a nice to have practice. It's essential for emotional healing. When we approach ourselves with compassion, we create a safe space for growth. We accept ourselves in all our humanness. Rather than letting mistakes or failures define us, self-compassion allows us to learn from them. Why is self-compassion so effective? Well, first and foremost, it reduces stress and anxiety. When we stop being our own worst critic, we reduce the pressure we place on ourselves, allowing us to relax, take a step back, and approach challenges from a more balanced perspective. It also promotes self-acceptance. Imagine being appreciated for being you. Now imagine getting this acceptance from yourself. So what changes is that now, when we strive for improvement, we do it from a place of self-love and respect rather than self-hatred or fear of failure. It also helps us regulate our emotions. When we are compassionate with ourselves, we become more aware of our emotions, and instead of spiraling into negativity or self-doubt, we are able to navigate our feelings with greater ease. This creates emotional stability, which is crucial for long-term healing and well-being. And lastly, it improves relationships. The more we practice self-compassion, the better we are at showing compassion to others. When we are kind to ourselves, we are more likely to extend that kindness to those around us. This creates more stronger, more supportive relationships, which are essential for healing and growth. So why is it so easy to be critical of ourselves and so hard to be kind? One reason is that today we value perfectionism and achievement. Growing up, we are often told success is tied to our worth, and anything less than perfection is seen as a failure. This mindset fuels the inner critique and makes it difficult to practice self-compassion. Moreover, many of us have been conditioned to believe that we need to be hard on ourselves to grow. We equate harshness with motivation. But the truth is, self-compassion doesn't mean complacency. It's about giving ourselves the space to fail, learn, and try again without the weight of self-condemnation. So how can we be kind to ourselves? How can we practice self-compassion? The first step is to start paying attention to your inner dialogue. Just try and throughout the day, at different moments, just stop for a few seconds. Just long enough to become aware of what are you telling yourself. For me, it used to be that I am too thin and did not look good. And what did I do? Well, I started telling myself that I am beautiful. For months, every time that I could find an opportunity, I told myself the same thing. I even listened to affirmations every day that said similar things. And of course, I was lucky to have met a few people who told me the same with such genuinity that I had to believe them. Of course, it started with me responding with awkwardness, but I'm proud to say that I have improved. At least compliments don't make me awkward anymore. Next is to practice mindfulness by staying present with your emotions without judgment. Instead of pushing away feelings of disappointment or frustration, acknowledge them and then offer yourself comfort and reassurance. But is it that easy? A lot of times, no. Because the criticism is hardwired so strongly into our system that it takes daily reminders. It requires consistency, and it is something that has to be practiced every single day, especially on days when that inner critique is loud. Remember that self-compassion is a practice, not a destination. It takes time to shift old habits, but with patience and persistence, it can become second nature. And in the end, all I would like to say is that self-compassion helps us break free from cycle of self-criticism. In turn, allowing us the freedom to grow, learn, and embrace our humanity. So the next time you're feeling down or making a mistake, treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. You deserve it. Thank you for tuning in into today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. Until next time, be kind to yourself because healing starts from within.